should have been a cowboy. I should have learned to rope and ride.
Big day for the boys that day, dude. Big day for the boys.
Cowboy Cole cleaning up in Arizona, taking that USD. Cowboy Cole, first win of 2025. How did it feel?
It felt so good, Felipe. I showed up there with just really good intentions. Okay. I just wanted to get good starts on my horse, trying to set him up for success because I got my sights, bro, on a truck roping at the end of the month at Rancho Rio.
What?
Duel in the desert, 10 and a half, 4 steer, high point roper taking home a truck. And dude, I want to take home that freaking truck. So yeah, I went to Horns and Hooves with Ledoux. We've been practicing hard as fuck for like a week and a half, just good starts right out of the corner. And dude, he worked so freaking good. And the next thing you know, the boys come back seventh high call. We blasted one 6-2 in the short round, and we won third.
Just saucing them out there, man. I watched the videos Cowboy Cole just posted on his Instagram. Make sure you check it out if you haven't seen it yet. This guy is just throwing headshots for days, bro.
Yeah, bro. Switched to the dark side. Went heading for a little bit. I love it over there. I love healing, but dude, heading's fun.
Total flex though, man. This guy can do it all. He can heel, he can head, he can tie down. He's a real cowboy. Yo, the other thing we have to get to is that it was your birthday. And we did not acknowledge that during the last episode. I want to start off by apologizing, saying happy birthday, Cowboy Cole. I love you, buddy. Hope you have an amazing year. You know, we're starting a new cycle here. How old are you turning?
31.
31 years old, just a baby. How does it feel? Are the knees starting to hurt, the back, or do you feel like a spring chicken?
I was warned that when you do cross over that 20 to 30 mark, that things just start to, for whatever reason, get sore. And it's true. Okay. Every single word of it. All right. I have to be actively stretching and stuff like that to like keep my knees feeling loose and my lower back feeling loose. It's freaking incredible.
That's so funny, man. We take it for granted, right? When you're 10 years old, 20 years old, get thrown off a bronc or whatever, fall off a horse, get back on, wake up the next day, go to work, party till 6 in the morning. But yeah, man, you start feeling it. But you know what? I find that if you stay active, if you're always riding, if you're going to the gym, if you're stretching, I'm 30. I don't even know. It's so crazy how quick it goes by. Sometimes like people are like, how old are you? I'm like 31, 32, 37, 38. I am 38 years old. Just turned 38 last year and we'll turn 39 this year. And I feel like I can still do what I used to do back in the day because I'm always active. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're very fortunate that way, right? They always say that, you know, when you stop moving, that's when you die. But we're always doing something, whether it's horse related, farm related, ranch related.
Yes,
we're always doing something.
Staying active.
You guys just went out skiing again and whatnot, right? Like always having that initiative to wanting to do something. But one note made me laugh when you were talking about how you didn't know your age. It just made me think of Forgetting Sarah Marshall when they're out on the surfboards and Paul Rudd. The guy's like, how old are you? And he's like, I don't know. I quit wearing a watch when I moved out here. Just like, that's so cool. He's like, man, I guess I'd be 41. Fuck. He's like, whoa, haven't thought about
when did that happen? That's so funny, man. But I strongly believe that's such a good movie. But it's just a state of mind, you know. It's just a number. I've met some of the youngest people I've ever met were 80 years old, and some of the oldest people I've ever met were freaking 18. Like it's all up here. And again, just how using your body, like you said, you meet these ranchers that are 87 years old, and it's like, damn, you're feeding like 40 head of horse and 1,000 head of cows every day, like, and you look amazing. So it's all about staying active. And speaking of staying active, speaking of farming, speaking of ranching, we have a special guest today. Why don't you do the honors, Cowboy Cole? Who are we talking to today?
Yeah, we got a bit of a young gunslinger, social media gunslinger, but comes from a big time farming background. I do believe she's like 4th generation. We are interviewing Kait Thornton today, known as Apple Girl Kait on social media. And yeah, I'm really excited. The only thing I really know about apples is I like to eat them. So I'm actually kind of excited to learn about the process of farming apples.
Yeah, man, it's not an easy process, bro. I will tell you that. Each apple needs to be hand picked. You can't machine pick it because it will bruise. Can you imagine hand picking every apple? We're talking about billions of apples consumed every year, and there needs to be a mofo out there just hand picking that and just very gently putting it on a crate so that they don't bruise. It's insane, man. It's so hard.
Already right there. I mean, That makes complete sense in my brain, but I've never had to think about it.
And you know why it makes sense in your brain? Because you're an apple eater, and apples are super fruits, bro. You've heard the saying, an apple a day keeps the doc away.
That's right.
We're gonna ask her that because those are facts, man. It's unbelievable how healthy apples can be for us. Like they even help with what is it called when people have mental health issues. Here we go. I'm getting it in. I'm speaking Spanish all day with Clarita. Depression. They help with depression, man. Unbelievable.
Really?
Yeah.
That's the first time I heard that.
Yes, sir. So I'm excited to talk to Kait, aka Apple Girl. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for making the time here to chat with us. I know you're super busy.
Oh, I'm fairly not busy right now. I'm in my off season, which is nice.
That's true. You have an off season as well, just like hockey players. How do you keep yourself busy? What do you do? Do you travel? What do you do during the off season?
I sell apples.
Okay, so it's not an off season.
Well, it feels like it to me. Like yesterday, I was in a little mountain town and I was selling a bunch of fruit. I sold 84 boxes of 25-pound boxes of fruit yesterday.
Whoa. Wow, that's huge. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You're
It's really
getting
fun.
jacked in the off season, packing these big bundles around. Wow.
Actually, yeah, I can do 2 at a time.
Oh, what? That's true more than what Cole can do. So Cole.
I prefer to watch the work, not be involved in the work.
You're a foreman.
Classic Cowboys. Once they learn how to rope, you'll never get them to work another day in their lives.
I'll work long enough to get the next set of fees. You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
And Kait, speaking of Cowboys, you have a horse, right? You ride?
I do have a horse, but I'm the first person in probably 100 years in my family to have horses. And so, yeah, I got into it when I was 15 or so. And like, I never got to do rodeos or anything. Like my best friend, her name's also Katie. So we had 2 Katies in high school, but she was a barrel racer and like taught me a lot about horses and stuff.
Oh, is there a lot of rodeo in Washington State?
Yeah, there is actually. The Columbia River Circuit goes there.
That's awesome. Rodeo and farming hand in hand. But Kait, I want to start this interview with you. First of all, saying that your social media is popping. It's so awesome to see someone as young as you putting a face to farming and breaking down so many of the stereotypes people have today just because they don't know, right? Like farmers are killing everyone. All the problems in the world are due to farmers, like global warming. It's so ridiculous to me. And the hardest working people in the universe are farmers, and they are working so hard to simply put food on our tables. So my first question to you is, how important do you see this work that you're doing on social media to break down the stigma, and actually educate people on what's actually happening out there?
Oh man, it's paramount. Okay, one of the things I always say most often is like, it takes all of us. So people who are other farmers or ranchers or whatever, they might think like they're comparing themselves to me or my platform since I've gotten to a certain level. But I'm like, no, my personality is going to attract different people, and other people's personality is going to attract other people.
Exactly.
The bottom line is, for me, everyone eats apples and pears for the most part. And like for anyone who's raising beef, it's like a lot of people eat beef. And so we need to hit all of those people because you got a large demographic of people who are actually consuming that food. So everyone needs to be involved.
It's so true. And I think that we're so good at talking inside our fence posts, you know what I mean? But communicating outside has always been a problem. And people like you do it in such a light manner, like such I think, an easy way for people to grasp and understand and maybe pay attention to a topic they might not otherwise. And we are stronger together. I totally believe what you just said. I know from the cowboy world, from the horse world, we are so separated at times. It's like, oh, you're a cutter. Oh, cutters suck. Oh, you're a team roper. Oh, team ropers are lazy. I'm a tie-down roper. When really we need to come together. Otherwise, it's only going to be harder. And the other side is so good at coming together, right? Like the animal welfare people, the people that are, pointing the finger at farmers and saying that the pesticides and this and that. So that's so important what you've just said. And is that something that you run into? Like, is that a problem for you? Like you're just...
You mean like within the
Within
Actually,
farming and ranching, like, are people celebrating what you're doing, or at times are they kind of being like, "Oh, she's getting too much of the limelight"? And
I think when I started a little bit, people were kind of like, you have like the more old school farmers that were kind of like, I don't know about this. But I've like persevered, and I know that when I walk into a room, it's like, oh, she's a bubbly like blonde chick, right? And people are kind of like, does she really
that's
know?
funny because that's what people say about me as well. So
Oh, is that is that right? I can see it. But like I go into these places and I know people kind of are like, does she is she really legit? And then the more I talk, people are like, oh well, she really does know this because I know I'm real. Like I'm fourth generation. I grew up and saw my parents put blood, sweat, and tears into our operation. And so what I'm talking about is true to my heart. It's not like I'm just like w woke up one day and I was like, yeah, I'm going to talk about apples and pears, make it my entire personality. Um,
that's I need to make a TikTok account. What's it going to be about? I know apples and
Yeah,
pears like
just
that.
eating an
yes,
apple. I love this so much.
yeah, but like there's a ton of support. I have to end on that note. Like there's a
Yeah.
lot of people that are supportive, and now I'm like, especially as years have gone on since I've been doing this since I was like 17. And
Wow.
so I've gotten a lot of support as years go on, and people see that it really does work. It really does move the needle, and we need it.
Oh,
Yeah.
we need it desperately. Now, Cowboy Cole, you're a big Apple enthusiast. Am I
Hmm.
correct on this?
You are
We've
correct.
we've all heard the saying, "An apple a day keeps the doctor away." Apples, they are super fruits. You are the apple girl, Kate, aka the apple girl. So, for the viewers and the listeners at home, can you break it down just how powerful these like apples are for humans? How good they are?
Oh yeah, you got like so a lot of people I find are concerned about like sugar content. So a majority of like the sugar in an apple is fructose. So your body processes that really easily. But then it's like you've got a bunch of carbs and sugar that are packed in fiber. You've got a ton of fiber, especially in like the skin of an apple. And so it's like you've got a slow burn throughout the day. You'd be surprised like you eat an apple and you feel pretty full from it, and then you stay full for a little while. Compared to if you were just to eat, I don't know, just like apple, if you just drank apple juice, it's not going to have the same effect because it doesn't have that density, it doesn't have the carbs, it doesn't have the fiber. Um, so, and like one of the biggest things is people are always concerned. Okay, we have apples that are being kept in storage for, 10 months to a year, right? But that's why apples became popular in the first place. You think about like the pioneers moving out west and stuff. They were so happy that they could have apples that they could keep in the root cellar or whatever, or would keep for months at a time without all the special technology that we have now. But they were able to have fresh fruit in the middle of the winter, you know?
That's very cool. Yeah, kind of a longevity fruit, right?
Yes.
It's
Yes.
amazing. Like, what makes them like? I was reading up on that when I was reading up about you and learning more about like the Apple world, which is something is not in my wheelhouse. Although I consume apples, it's awesome to actually go in and see how everything works. Why are they able to last for 10 months like that? That blew
Mhm.
my mind.
So, okay, how do I explain this? So, like the white spots on apples?
Yes.
Have you seen those? Those are called lenticels, and they're kind of like they like breathe for the apple. They're like porous. And
No way.
they release ethylene. And ethylene is the hormone gas that like tells fruit, and this is for like a lot of fruit, and vegetables, I believe, tells them to ripen. And so
Ah.
what we're able to do, so like personally, our farm, we keep our fruit in a cold storage at like 40 degrees or so, sometimes I think around 38 degrees.
Okay.
And then we also have a big fan keeping circulation so that ethylene isn't just like sitting there and making all this fruit start to convert from, because you start out with a bunch of starch in fruit and it converts to sugar.
Yeah.
And so we make sure that that process is not happening as fast. It's still going to happen no matter what I do, no matter what we do, but
Right.
slowing down that process. But then in like big warehouses, you have what we call a controlled atmosphere, where they suck all of the oxygen out of the room because oxygen also um, speeds up the ripening process. And you take out all the oxygen and you replace it with nitrogen. And
Wow.
yeah, it essentially puts the fruit to sleep.
What?
That's insane. Did you know that, Cole?
No, just mummifying apples. That's essentially what's going on here.
It's crazy though because like it's super dangerous. Like people have died by going into these rooms
No
because
I
way.
bet, yeah.
you
If they
walk in
wouldn't,
and it just like
gone.
sucks the oxygen out of you.
Dang, dude. This is like a
Wow.
Indiana Jones Raiders of the
It-
Lost Apple going on right here.
The lost a movie, Cole. You should write it, man. There's a movie idea.
Oh,
There's
you
some
just see
booby
me
traps.
swinging through the warehouse on a freaking whip.
That is
I
in.
would,
Go ahead.
I would pay to see that happen.
It's
All right, let's make it
gonna
happen,
turn
folks.
into a episode of Jackass real quick when I fall from the rafters.
That's what we're hoping, Cole. But Kate, you guys produce, is this correct? 12 million pounds of apples and pears?
You did do your research. I'm impressed.
I'm a journalist. I'm
Yeah,
not
you
just
did.
a cowboy hillbilly.
Aren't
What are
you the
you saying,
lost
dude?
cowboy?
Uh,
Aren't you the lost cowboy? Is that what you go by?
Pardon? Sorry, say that again.
Aren't you like the lost cowboy?
I'm the found cowboy. I was lost, but now I'm found.
Oh.
Sorry, so 12 million pounds?
Yeah, so because it kind of fluctuates like year over year. That was kind of the number that my dad gave me. So we grow about 60% of our farm is pears actually, and then 40% is apples. Um,
Wow.
and then I think there's about 12 million pounds of fruit that we produce. But like some years, like we've cut down trees and replanted and stuff, and so like those blocks are out of production. So it fluctuates, and then year over year, every season's different.
But let's get that number because it sounds beautiful. 12 million pounds of apples and pears on 440 acres.
Hmm.
What is the biggest hurdle you guys face today?
Labor, for
I
sure.
was gonna ask that. That was one of my questions. I get to travel around different countries, talk to ranchers and farmers, and that is the number one answer I get from everybody: finding labor.
Well, I mean, you think about it, every apple and pear that you see in the store is picked by hand. Like
I
we don't have
told Cole before
That's
this started.
wild to me.
Yeah, by
Yeah,
hand. That's crazy.
it
Are
is.
they
And so people like we have to train our crews on how to pick the fruit properly so it's not getting bruised. We also like we do all of our own trucking, so we have like a 389 Peterbilt, 359 Peterbilt. We have air ride trailers so they're not bouncing around. And do all these steps to make sure that that fruit is taken care of, but we're also bringing in because I grew up seeing my parents be worried. You put all this money into a crop and then you worry if you can't get it off the tree. And so, and because we'd have guys come in and then they'd work for a couple weeks and then move on to the next farm or do whatever. And you don't have a consistent labor supply. You think about a wheat farmer, at least they know that they've got their combine day after day. But for us, it's like you have that inconsistency. So we started using the H-2A visa program, bringing up workers on a visa
Oh,
contract.
nice. Where do you bring them up from? From
A lot of them are from Mexico. Some other
nice.
farms go from Jamaica,
Okay.
but our guys are all from Mexico.
Wow, that's awesome. I didn't know that. And that's something that like really impacts me talking to all these ranchers and farmers is how hard it is to find people to work. And I grew up on a coffee farm in Brazil. So coffee as well, where I'm from, it's very mountainous. You can't get machines in there. There are machines that will shake the bottom of the tree and then the beans fall and people pick them. But there you got to pick it. Same thing as apples, just by hand. And it's just so hard to find people to do that kind of work today. But this is just one of the things you guys face. I was reading about, we're talking weather patterns are affecting you, sun, bees, insects.
Mhm.
Like there's so many variables that go into it. What makes you so passionate about this? Like this seems like one of the hardest things any farmer could get into. Why are
I
you doing
know.
this?
Jeez. I always joke that people they're like, "Oh, you're taking over the farm," because I am the succession plan. I have three siblings, but I'm the one most interested in the farm. And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm inheriting debt. It's gonna be a good time." But I don't know. It's like it's one of those things like you truly have to be passionate about it or it doesn't make sense. It's not like anyone's going into farming and ranching for the money, but it is for the lifestyle. I think I realized from a young age because I started a business selling fruit to my community and stuff, and that's what I still continue to do. But I was having all these interactions with people, and I just love talking about what we do and like where the food comes from. And I love the fact that, I wake up and I'm doing something different every day. I can be hauling shale, building up our roads, or I can be working with my horse, or, working on various different things because it's always different every single day. And I think I'd go crazy if I had a monotonous job.
Yeah, it's nice to wake up and have that variety every time you walk out the door. You could be walking out the door with game plan A, and then you look to the left and see just an absolute firestorm, and you're like, "Oh, I guess that's what we're dealing with today, right?" So,
Yeah,
what
that's on the
what's the size of a crew that you kind of need year round? And then in your like busiest season, say picking apples, how many ideal hands do you guys have out there grabbing
Mm,
fruit?
I guess I failed to mention like the biggest problem with labor right now is that Washington now requires overtime in agriculture, which yeah, you
Really?
guys.
Sure is overtime like that. What?
Yes, after 40 hours, we're paying time and a half. And to anyone who doesn't know agriculture, that seems like well, duh. But
Yeah.
agriculture is so seasonal that it's just ludicrous because your margins are so slim.
Mm.
Um, we can't really cover that. But so that being said, I wish that we had more guys, and we're probably gonna have to scale up our program so we can spread those hours over more people. But right now we're sitting at during harvest, we have like 65 guys, and then I think right now, since we're pruning, we've got a smaller group, and then more guys are going to be coming back here in a week or two. We've got about 18 guys pruning right
Oh
now.
yeah. What
Why, you want a job, Cole? Send her your resume,
I
bro.
was literally about to say, Felipe, we should go down there and like pick some apples one time. That would actually be kind
I'm
of
a
sweet to
master
see that
pruner.
operation for them
Please
just
do. And
Yeah.
then you guys can give me writing lessons.
hey, there we go.
Yeah.
We'll rope some stuff, pick some apples.
Yeah.
Let me ask, are you just south of Osoyoos? Like, is it close to the Canadian border? How far are you?
Yeah, yeah. I live like 25 minutes from the Canadian border.
No. Oh my God. We definitely have to go
Tanasket,
down there.
right? Tanasket,
Yeah.
Washington. How do you say that?
Tenasket, yes.
Tanasket.
In Washington, there's a lot of like, I'm right next to the reservation. So this is Chief Tenasket settled here. And then you've got a lot of different names, Yakima, Snohomish, things like
That's
that.
a beautiful part of the world. The last ride I did from Alaska to Calgary, I rode two horses from Penticton, Osoyoos area. So I got to spend a lot of time there. I didn't like, you think of Canada, you don't think desert, you don't think that, that topography. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. And I'm sure Washington State continues, right?
Oh, that makes me so happy. Yes, you rode right through my area, like the Okanagan Valley. So you got
Yeah.
Okanagan a little different up in Canada, and then it goes through Okanagan in the US. And it's one of the most beautiful areas that I've ever seen. I've done quite a bit of traveling, not compared to you, but like I've been to
No.
other countries and
Yeah.
stuff. And I think that's like one of the reasons why dad wanted to continue the farm because he had done a lot of traveling. And it's like there's no place really like this area of the world because you got an alpine desert, so you got all like the trees, but you have cactus and you have sagebrush, and then
Yeah.
you got a beautiful river running through, and it's just absolutely gorgeous. And like the only people who really know it are people who like backpacking, like either on horseback or like
Yeah.
hiking, or people who hunt and fish.
You got to be out there and see it. A lot of people have this perception that there's nothing out in the desert, that it's just a wasteland. But once you're in it and you're living in it, like it's so alive with life. And the lighting, to me, like the most beautiful lighting I've seen in my life has always been in desertous areas, whether it was
Mhm.
Chihuahua Desert in Mexico, Patagonia, or the Okanagan Valley. But you touched upon a very important part of this interview, your father, Jeff. I really want to find out where he went in South America in the 1970s. You alluded to that in one of your interviews. So I want to know what he was doing down there, what kind of crazy stuff Jeff was getting into. But I just want to know, what does your father mean to you? What does he mean in your life?
My dad's my bestie. Like he looks at me and he's always like, "You're like me, but pretty." So I'm like the female version of him. And because we're so similar. Like I got into competitive. I do like lever action rifle shooting. So that's like the cowboy
Cool.
part of me.
That's awesome.
And like I got started because of my dad, and like he taught me how to drive semis and stuff, and like just be a pretty like capable chick. And but all the way through just supporting me in anything I did. Like he's been my strongest supporter through the social media thing. And he was like, you got to keep doing it. Just we've never been able to do this as a farmer because he's been growing crops for over 30. I think he's on his 37th crop now.
Wow.
Um and
Wow.
and he's just like maybe you guys should have him on because he's has so much experience. My grandfather was in World War II and did
Wow.
years of heavy combat, and so he took my dad all over the world after the fact. And like, yes, South America in the 70s, like seeing riots and stuff, and like where gas is being thrown to
Yeah.
all over Europe, etc.
That was a dangerous part of the
Ooh.
world in the 1970s. So many dictatorships in South America. So good on them for having the courage to go down there. We'd love to get Jeff on, right, Cole? Like, how cool would it be to interview him?
Absolutely. Oh my God. Yeah, he sounds like he's got a plethora of stories.
Yeah. So please, after this, let's connect on that. If he's willing to come on, we'd love that. Your father took the farm operation from just a little over 20 acres to now we're talking 440 acres, correct?
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
is unbelievable to
Huge.
do. Like what a machine. But one of the things I really like talking about today is mental health. Mental health is such a huge issue within farming and ranching, and
Mhm.
we are just talking about the tip of the iceberg. You know, we come from macho parents, and we learn that you have to push your feelings aside and you can't be vulnerable, and you show vulnerability when you open up to someone saying that you're facing depression or whatever it is you're going through. And I heard in one of the interviews that your father went through a tough part of his life, leaned on alcohol like many men. I wanted for you to touch a little bit upon that because I think it's very important for other people that may be going through this or may have parents that are going through this to know that it's not just them. You know what I mean? Everyone is going to go through it at some point in their life. And how was he able to come out of that moment?
Oh, well, I think it speaks true to it because I've been around enough cowboys and stuff, um, where drinking is like a huge part of the culture.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
it ultimately comes down to like knowing yourself and knowing your limits. And one thing like that happened with my dad is he never grew up drinking. But a doctor had recommended for his blood pressure to have a glass of wine at night. And then he progressed into becoming a full-blown like wino, and he was drinking like 4 bottles of wine a day. And
Whoa.
yeah, yeah, I know. And he
Yeah.
was fully like functioning alcoholic, still doing all the work and stuff. But um it was pretty tough to go through. But he went through rehab, put himself through rehab and stuff, and he never looked back. And it is truly because of the Lord. Like, and he prays about it all the
Amen.
time. Yeah, and like reads his Bible. He and I read our Bibles together every morning. Like I just finished doing that with him. And he truly like because he had the humility to admit that he was in the wrong and he needed help, um, he's been able to grow and also help a lot of other people along the way. And that it's just like that level of surrendering and admitting like I need help, and that way you're able to receive that help.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it actually, is yeah, once you kind of admit to yourself what you need, it is incredible how it will find you.
Yeah. You need to take that step, right? People always say you can't help someone that doesn't want to be helped.
Hmm.
The person needs to want to get out, and I'm sure you and your family were a huge help to him as well, right? Having people that love you around and can help you through that because it's not easy. But seeing that and going through that at an early age, you know, everything you saw with the stress that farming, you know, the toll that it leaves on a family, on your father, what made you want to stay? And was there a moment where you were like, of your life, they said, I don't want to do this. Like, I want to do anything but become a farmer?
Uh, I'm gonna get like emotional. So I because this is like this year is 100 years that my family has been in this valley.
Wow.
And it has every generation has their struggles and has their own drama and things that they go through. And like when I was 15, you talk about mental health, my mom had a nervous breakdown and left. So like it is just my dad and I, and then my other siblings, they come and go. But it's like, and we've been through like special assets, like almost get our farm taken away. And I think it's just like I'm just an optimist through and through. And I figured, well, like we're already at kind of rock bottom. You can only go up from here.
Let's go. Let's
That's
go. I love
huge.
that.
And I know that I've had enough experience and like I have such a marketing brain that I'm like, we have a story to tell. I think that like people would have an interest in this. And like through my social media, that's been validation in itself. And I'm like, okay. but we don't have to do everything the same way it's been done for 100 years. Like we can do something different, like diversify income, um, try to grow different crops, like doing different things, and just figure out what works. And I think that I'm excited because I feel like I could actually contribute something.
You're giving me like Gary Vaynerchuk vibes where he went on that endeavor with his dad's wine business, right? Like he started doing all that stuff online, just stuck with it when nobody was watching to now, right? Like just scaled it beyond belief. Now into the marketing company and whatever the hell else that guy has his fingers in. But you essentially have done that. You just started this path, stuck with it, had a vision, had a story behind your farm, and look at where it's grown now. It's incredible.
Oh, thank you. Yes, Gary Vee is one of my on LinkedIn you have your top voices. He's one of my top voices that I
Legendary.
subscribe to, and I think he's got the great mentality, and it's a great reminder to me because I'm 22 of being like you're young, like
Yeah.
like take those risks and stuff. It also helps, being a farmer's daughter because you see risk taking all the time.
Yeah, if you can't take risks, you are definitely not built to be a farmer, right? Like
No.
it's a daily it's a daily war, basically a battle, and that's so cool. You're just starting, you're 22 years old. That's insane, everything you have accomplished already. And I'm sure, like, if we talk in 30 years from now, we're gonna be like, damn, like I knew that was gonna happen. Like I knew she was gonna be a
She
mogul.
owns the whole state of Washington now. We renamed it Apple Girl.
Remember that Okanagan Valley? Yeah, it's now Kate's. It's like,
Yeah, that would be the dream. But hey, I'm all about keeping like the farms and ranches. Okanagan County has a ton of farms and ranches, and I want to keep those in those families. So
speaking of, when you were like, we've been on this valley for 100 years, I was like, Taylor Sheridan needs to like listen to this podcast because this might be the next Yellowstone.
This is
Like,
gonna be the new landman and all about
yeah,
apples and pears.
yeah.
heck yeah,
What's her name? What's the girl from Yellowstone? What's
Beth
the name?
Dutton.
Beth. Yeah, exactly. You could be the next Beth.
I get told that I am like the nice Beth Dutton all the time.
There you go.
There you go. There's, oh my God. See, guys, I'm gonna
What
message
kind of Bentley you
Sheridan after
driving?
this. She has a sick
it the
truck. What
Peterbilt?
truck? She has a dope truck, right? Your truck's like an old antique truck.
Well, okay. I am a Ford girl. Like when I was 16.
Yeah, let's go. Cole's
I-
a Dodge guy. He likes to
Mhm.
fix his truck.
Oh, of
Ram.
course he is. He likes
Ram all the way.
those rough front ends. Back dashes,
Yep, I got a dash mat on my '01 right now,
Oh.
covering up the cracks.
Bro, you're
Yeah.
embarrassing me.
No, I have an OBS, so I have a 1995 Power Stroke. Like that's what I sold all my fruit out of. My grandpa factory ordered it back in the day. It's a 5-speed. It's straight piped. I put a new turbo in it. I got it tuned, did all the things to it. She's beautiful. And then I also just got a 2024 F350. So
How do
She
you
doesn't
like the
fuck
new
around,
2024?
no, I
No.
don't. I don't. I gotta like assert my dominance wherever I go. I roll into a gas station and I was always like, these guys are like, what are you doing with all that truck? I'm like, whatever I need to.
You like, want some apples?
Yeah.
Would you like to buy some apples? Do your trucks have names? Do you name your truck?
Yes,
All right.
my old two-tone blue pickup, that is blueberry, and then the new one is the red one, and it's raspberry.
Raspberry.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Let's
sweet though.
go. I love
Red
it.
for apples.
Yes, actually, I've always been in love. It's like that deeper red color that's on the new Fords, and I told the dealership, I was like, I want a head turner of a pickup. I want it to have this color. And then I sat in a bunch of different trim packages because I'm like a pretty small chick. And I know, like, I've drove enough rigs that it's like, I know what feels right. And so I was looking at the platinum and I was like, oh, that'd be cool. Like, I could have platinum. But I just felt like I was driving a boat. And then I sat in the Lariat and I was like, oh, like, this is
This feels nice.
That's the
This feels
one.
nice.
When you're trucking them Peterbilts, are you a seat all the way to the floor, just
like a bull
freaking
hauler.
big Reagan?
Picking
Sitting
them
on an
out.
apple crate.
Yeah, no, I'm like I'm not that cool. I do joke about it all the time. Like on my Snapchat, I'll like post because I'll have a ball cap on and I just like set it up, and especially when I'm driving my old pickup, I just pretend like I am, but I'm not. I need to be able to see over the hood.
That's
That
fair.
is amazing. All right, now let's talk about Kate's Crate. Like, how can you go wrong with a name like that? Let me like Felipe's. I can't sell anything. Like, I can't start a business because my name doesn't rhyme with anything. Tell me about how Kate's Crates came about, and it's blown up.
Oh, I don't know if it's blown up. I'd love to scale it someday, but it's not my main priority. I don't have quite the capital to make that happen. But it has grown quite a bit, especially since I've been able to keep it going for gosh, I started that in 2018. I was a sophomore in high school. It was just before I got my driver's license, and my dad was like, "Well, I've got all these apricots. We had like 12 apricots, and he's like, you can sell them if you want to." And before we had sold at like a wholesale, like selling to a grocery store at a bulk price. And I wanted to make a little more money. So I was like, I'll just go to direct to consumer and just put an ad out on Facebook Marketplace because like where are all things sold in small towns and rural areas? Everyone goes on Facebook Marketplace.
Yep. Here's
Yeah.
your sign. Yep. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. And then so like the first time I went to go deliver fruit, I actually couldn't drive myself. So we had to use like one of my dad's employees actually drove me to town to make my first delivery. But then I turned 16 a couple days later and the rest is history. And I started just selling, I would start like selling, going in individually and meeting people. And then I was like, I could be more efficient like this. And I had done the farmers markets and I hated sitting there. And people would come over and they'd like haggle you for like 2 pounds of apples on the price. And I was like, I don't have time for all of this. And so I put an ad out. I'm like, hey, I'm going to this place and I'll be at this parking lot from this time to this time, usually like an hour. And like yesterday, I showed up with 80 boxes and sold out in an hour.
Wow.
Wow.
That's so awesome. Your own little version of a lemonade stand, you know what I mean? You took what you had and what you knew and you made it your own.
Exactly. No, I love it.
And that is like, I love that idea. I have a friend that does the same thing here in Canada. She has the crates, and it's like what she does is people kind of sign up to it. So you pay your monthly fee as if it's Netflix, and every month you get the fresh fruits and vegetables that they're growing there at the farm. And that's so important to get people to eat healthy, number one, to eat locally, number two. I think it's all a win-win. So congratulations on doing that. That's I think if every community did that, it would really help farmers and the community itself.
Oh, thank you. No, and it's like my true passion. I totally enjoy doing it.
Okay, so next question, something that boggled my mind. I did not know this. Once an apple has fallen from the tree, you can't sell that apple. Did you know that, Cowboy Cole?
I did not.
What?
Yeah.
Can you tell us about that?
So we had a windstorm come through this year and knocked a bunch of our pears on the ground because pears are pretty dense and they don't, it's not really strong, the connection between the stem and the tree. And so a bunch of them fell on the ground. And I was just sharing like that devastation. And this is like where I'm guilty of it too, where I'm kind of like, well, people would just assume that like they understand the heartache there, but people are like, well, just pick them up. And I'm like, oh, there's another like miscommunication, misunderstanding of, yeah, when that fruit hits the ground like we could get sued for picking it up and selling it to the warehouse and stuff.
Wow.
Because it's like a food safety, because there's all these like foodborne pathogens and things like that. And yeah, it's all regulated heavily.
So you go along with a big rake and rake them into a bucket and haul it to where? The dumpster?
You just leave it on the ground. It's like, again, like you think about labor, it's not worth putting in the labor costs if we're not going to get any return out of it. So it's like once that fruit hits the ground, it's like, well, like I guess it's fertilizer now and food for the deer.
Damn. That's crazy.
I know.
Wow. That is insane.
You couldn't box that up and take it like to your 1 hour in the parking lot thing. Hey, that's a no-go.
I probably could, but again, it's like I don't think it's worth the effort, essentially.
That's
fair.
Yeah,
of course. Yeah, everything's a cost, right? Everything's a cost, and you got to put it on paper and see if it's worth it or not. And
ultimately, I guess I may be thinking it like, oh, you walk out the front door and you walk 10 feet into the orchard and grab a bundle and go to the truck. It's definitely way more than that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 440 acres, bro.
To do it.
This is the Yellowstone of fucking
Yeah, I thought
orchards.
you
We
just walked
talked
out the
about this.
door and it was just ready to go like it is in Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, you think so, but no, that wouldn't work. We'd get a lot of people that would complain and stuff.
Dang.
And yeah, it sucks. It's just one of those things. And it's like we're thinking like a business. Like we're a business, we gotta make the numbers work and stuff. And it's weird, like people applaud people for running things like a business until it's farming or ranching. And then
Exactly.
they're like, oh, you're wasteful and
Yeah.
stuff. It's like, well, sorry, sustainability to me is staying in business.
Hmm.
Amen.
And if
Wow.
they knew how wasteful a lot of other industries were, like I work
Yeah.
Oh,
film and TV when I'm home,
Oh dear.
horrible. Oil
Yeah.
field, horrible. Like
Yeah.
the fact that they come down on farmers and ranchers about that just
Yeah.
annoys the hell out of me, man, because if
Yo,
they only knew.
yeah, it's ridiculous. It seems like it's just the punching bag of the 21st century are farmers and ranchers. Like every problem is just your fault. And in terms of waste, someone told me the other day, I had no idea about this. Every time a flight is canceled, all of the food that's going to be on that flight for you to eat, it has to be thrown in the garbage, no
Boom,
matter
prime
what. They
example.
can't give it to like the street people. They can't send it to an orphanage. They can't take it to the next flight. All of that food that is nicely packaged was going to go on that flight from Calgary to Brazil. Now is thrown in the garbage. Imagine how many flights are canceled every single day. Why is no one talking about that? Like it's
The
just
amount of
so,
mouths that could have been fed in a local community,
yeah, ridiculous. But
horrible.
anyways, that's why we have Kait doing such important work educating people. But something you said that I love this line and I want you to elaborate on it is farming is all about reacting.
mm,
Tell me
God.
about that.
Well, it's like anything. It's like okay, the tractor we were gonna use today is out of commission, so like you pivot and you figure out like how am I gonna make that work? Especially with like tree fruit and stuff, where everything is hypersensitive to time, like especially like the harvest window and stuff. Like those starches are actively converting to sugar, and so like you got to be able to make things happen. But even things like we've had hailstorms come through, and it's like, oh, I was totally betting on that block, but now it's all marked up. And you got to be a pivot. And I've seen my dad on the phone with our marketing desks and stuff and being like, hey, I've got all this hail marked fruit because that communication is so important because things are always changing. And so I've been on the sales and marketing end, and it's like they're trying to figure out how much volume they have to work with. They're working with big retailers like Walmart and stuff that require certain amounts of volume to make anything work. And so it's like, okay, you got to react as quickly as you can, and say, okay, I've got all this hail marked fruit. Can we sell it at a lower grade? Or can we maybe set up a sweet juice deal or something like that? Constantly problem solving because you can plan a certain extent of farming, but majority of the time you've got to be a reactor.
Yeah, you got to be flexible, and we were talked about that earlier on, right? You might come out of your house, now there's a fire you got to put out, or there's a
Hmm.
hail storm coming through. Now, you briefly mentioned Walmart. That's so cool. I saw that you guys are on the Walmart page, you and your dad. Like, tell us about
Yeah.
that deal and how that all came about.
Well, and that came because honestly, like retailers can't be as connected to farmers as they'd probably like to. And because I go on LinkedIn, LinkedIn's one of my favorite social media apps, actually. And I post my stuff on there because I know that's where like the decision makers are, right? Like those are the people who actually control where our
They hold
capital.
the reins. They hold the reins.
Absolutely. So it's important for them to see like the real faces behind just what
Nice.
they see as a SKU number on an apple or whatever. And I got connected with some people from Walmart and they were really kind and they're like, "Hey, I think we want to do something more of like showing that we have a connection to farmers and showing that we are trying to buy locally, meaning just like US for like raised fruit and
Yeah.
vegetables, etc." And so we brainstormed on this campaign and I sent some pictures over. And of course, like with big corporations like that, it has to go through so many approvals
Oh,
and so many things. But it worked out. Yeah.
That's
I,
huge.
I can't. I can't imagine how hard that would be, Cowboy Cole. Like how many hoops you got to jump through to get to Walmart.
Dude, I get
Yeah.
frustrated dealing with just trying to get a dang social media post up for somebody sometimes. You know what I mean? And it's just like, dang, boys, this is not bottle science. Like, let's.
Oh man, there's a lot of red tape around it all. But I'm really happy that retailers are starting to focus on like putting the face of farmers out there because I think that's like what the general public wants to see. That's how I ended up with I don't know if you did your like this research, but like I have my face in all these semi trucks, and
I saw. Oh, you're taking my questions away. Damn. I'm out of here. I quit.
I'm sorry, I didn't give you enough credit. Sorry. But yes, that like those are seen by so many people. And I just think about now, like how many semi trucks are going through hauling the fruit or vegetables or beef or whatever products that are not putting farmers and ranchers' faces on them. And I'm like, you should be doing this.
100%. I mean, it's only beneficial for everybody because I was reading something on marketing the other day, and it says that unless there's a story, you're not selling it today. People don't want anymore. The back in the day, you create this fake movie about a beautiful guy with abs running through the beach, getting in his new Ford truck. No, they want to know like, hey, Katie's producing this much apples and she drives a Ford truck because it gets her through the orchard. And that's what it's about, right? So it's a win-win for everyone. But how does it feel for you to look at that huge semi truck and see your ginormous smile? Like, what's that like? Did you cry when you saw it the first time?
Didn't cry, but it was like it's just kind of surreal. Especially since like I love trucks and like big rigs and I love the trucker culture. Like my favorite movie of all time is Smoking the Bandit. And like
Yeah.
it's just like so cool to be a part of that. And then like the amount of people, since those trucks are going all over, they're in Washington, Idaho, Montana, and Oregon. And I get pictures or comments or like Snapchats from people all the time of it going all over. It doesn't deliver to my area, funny enough. Um, but sometimes since I drive so much and I'm headed east, sometimes I'll meet it on the road and I'm like,
No.
there's me. My face gets so red.
You go up to the driver and you're like, you should next to them on the
Yeah,
road.
that's what I
I
was
did
thinking.
it one time. One time my old boyfriend and I were actually heading to one of his rodeos and he was like, Kate, there's you. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so we're on the we're on the freeway and I'm like pulling up next to this truck driver and I'm like waving at the guy. And he was just kind of an old trucker and he was kind of looking at me like he probably thought there was something wrong with like his trailer. He probably pulled
He
over.
probably
He pulled over to check his tires. He's out
Yeah.
there with the hammer.
Yeah, 'cause I was like,
Goddamn blonde girl.
it's me. But maybe I don't look like my picture. I don't know.
You should have mooned him. You should have mooned him. That's where you went wrong.
I
Hit
know.
him with the ham.
Hit him with the cheeks, with the apple cheeks. Okay, now let's talk about Italia. Italy, you just went not too long ago to Interpoma, the largest apple conference in the world. Did you know about that, Cole? Oh, Cole's
nope.
having it. Cole's drowning over here in his drink. Tell us about that opportunity. Had you been there before, and what's it like?
So I had been to Italy before. I studied in Switzerland for 3 months or so.
Nice.
And but it was like cool to go back about 2 years later. And I got invited by the organization who puts on Interpoma. You say Interpoma way better than I do.
Wow, how do you say it? How do you say it? You said it.
Interpoma.
Yeah,
It's very
that
good.
sounds.
How'd you say it, Felipe?
I just do the Interpoma. It's all about the hand. The hand is
Interpoma.
half the battle, right? Once you get this, you're in.
That's true. Maybe I'm just missing that level of zest. But Interprom is cool. It's got people from all different countries because apples are grown a lot of different areas, which I'm very fortunate to get into this space of agriculture because I can like next month I'll go to South Africa and there's
No
apples.
way.
Whoa.
And then you can go to Australia, there's apples grown there, but there's people coming all over the world to this specific area of Italy. It's the South Tyrol region in Bolzano. And this area actually used to be Austria up until World War One.
Wow.
And it's home to South Tyrol has about 6,000 apple growers.
Wow.
That's a
a lot.
But because like you're talking about like your coffee farm in Brazil and how it's like super steep terrain.
Yep.
This is exactly how Bolzano is because it's at the base of like the Dolomites and stuff. And they just like they're like, oh, there's dirt there. I'm gonna grow something on it. Even though you're at like just a super steep grade, they can't even run equipment on it. But all these families, individual families, are supported by like a 5-acre plot.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's stuff that like I love hearing that because the apples took you there, right? It's so cool to be able to go to these places because of your passion. But I'm imagining after the event's over at night, you get to speak to these people and hear about their stories, and become friends with them. What's that experience like for you?
Oh, it's amazing. Like one of my he's like one of my biggest mentors now. His name is Marco Rivera, and he's over in he's like west of that area, and his family has apples, cherries, and kiwi fruit. And he was so nice, and through connections in the tree fruit industry, but when I was over there studying before, he invited me into his home, like showed me like his warehouses and stuff, and he's super high tech, and he believes in me so much, and I've made wonderful connections over there. And he's like, Caitlin, what you're doing is super important, and you need to keep like doing it. And just encouragement and that like camaraderie that comes from like, even though we didn't grow up in the same area, it's like we know what it's all like, and we have that mutual understanding.
The
The
apple
common
is a
battle.
common language. Yeah, exactly.
I know. I was kind of thinking when you said, Felipe, like the apple has gotten to take you incredible places, and that's what kind of this show is all about. Like talking to people that the cowboy hat has taken them incredible places. But at
Oh
the end of
yeah.
the day, man, like when you find your niche and you find that thing that you love, there is really no telling where it could go if you just tunnel vision and focus on it, right?
Exactly. Especially, okay, like I've talked to like cowboys about this too. Like show your passion. Like don't be so stoic all the time. Like show your enthusiasm, because other people who have the same passion as you and they might be further up than you, they'll recognize that passion and say, "Hey, I'm going to take you as far as I can take you and see if I can help you at all." And
Yes.
I think that's just like I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I just like you can tell I'm like so excited about things when I go different places, and it's led me to do even cooler things because people are like, "Oh, like she's has true enthusiasm and passion towards the things that I also have enthusiasm and passion about."
Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely.
And everyone will, no matter who they are and how powerful and what they've accomplished, they will see that passion.
Hmm.
And those people, in order to get to where they got to, they needed to have that passion. So they will go out of their way to help you. I love that you just said that because it's so true. They will go out of their way to be your mentor, to help you, because guess what? Not everyone has that, and that's something that I find today is that we're kind of losing that. Everyone's just like numbly going through this
Oh,
opportunity we call life and just wasting it away. And
I couldn't believe that going to I just graduated last year from Washington State University, go Cougs.
go,
And
go Cougs.
and
I loved Cougars growing up. I just want to say that.
oh really? Oh wait.
Not your Cougars.
No.
Felipe
Oh
prefers
no.
mountain lions because they're mounting the young ones and lying about their
Oh
age.
stop.
Oh, that's terrible. That's
Go
terrible.
back
Sorry,
to
go ahead. I cut you off. Go
Michael
ahead.
needs to stay drinking his drink. He just pipe down over there. Anyway, so I innocently graduated from Washington State University as a cougar, and I just couldn't believe how many young people, I'm like surrounded by people that are in like the prime of their life, right? And they were just like so unmotivated to do so many things. And I was just like, or they'd look at me and they're like, how are you like so far or like along or, I'm like, it's because of passion. Because ultimately we live in the day and age where you can make your passion your work, quite honestly. You don't have to become a doctor or a lawyer to become successful.
You could
You
be
just
the
have,
brand like you've
Mhm.
done. You're the
yeah,
brand. It's not the apples. It's not the farm. It's you.
exactly. And like, I think that's one thing my dad taught me from a young age too, is like, you're a young person and people expect you to make mistakes. So don't let that hold you back. Just like go in there with like your truest intention, be humble, be willing to learn, but also know that you're going to make mistakes and no one expects you to be perfect. And I think that there's like a certain stigma that like, oh, I got to be taken seriously. I've got to like do everything right. It's like, no, like we need young people in the workforce that are willing to be molded.
Yeah. And I think you only truly learn, like I just speaking for myself and my journey, the most important lessons I've learned in my life came on the other side of huge mistakes and came on the other side of fear. I always tell people like the best experiences I've lived, I was shitting my pants seconds or days or years earlier thinking about that because it scared the crap out of me. But guess what? That's what life is all about, right? Like
Mhm.
if you can feel your heart punching your rib cage, that's a good thing, right? Unless there's like a bear about to eat you. In that case, it's not a good thing, but most of the
Well,
time, that's an amazing thing, right?
I mean, I gotta give it up to you. Like you doing all the traveling on top of doing all like the cowboying, just cowboying in general. There's got to be a lot of instances where you're shitting your pants because I just can't even imagine. Just like
Yeah,
from all the rodeos that I've gone to, or just being like on regular ranch work is there's just a lot of life or death scenarios there. But it is like
true.
what is the John Wayne quote? Like,
Courage is being scared half to death, but saddling up your horse anyway. Favorite
Saddling up
quote of
anyway.
all time. Favorite quote of all time. And
Yes.
it's so true. And it's so true. People used to come to me all the time and say, man, like you're so courageous. Like you cross Mexico on a horse, you cross Honduras. Like, how did you do that? And I would always be like, damn, like I don't feel courageous. Like I don't know what they're talking about. But later in life, through learning and mistakes and living, I learned that courage isn't something that's real that people think, it's like a body armor you get in a video game. We all have the ability to feel fear. Courage is just putting that fear aside and taking that first step.
Absolutely. Or like when it comes to failure, my grandpa remembered from the war, they would say, because they're literal life or death situations, and they would say, these guys are just an incredible generation.
Insane.
They can kill you, but they can't eat you. Like there's like some rule in warfare that you cannot eat your opponent or whatever. And so they thought that was funny, and they just like made that a joke. But it's true.
Yeah.
It's crazy you saying that, because that leads me to the thought of tough times create hard people, right? And easy times create very weak people. And
Yes.
your grandfather's generation, they went through so many problems, like 2 world wars, the Great Depression. Things were hard, and they were able to overcome that, and they were able to create this wonderful world that we live in today, right? And I just want to kind of talk about your grandfather a little bit, because that's how I met you, was through that video you posted of where your grandparents are buried and you're with your dad. And I just watched it again with my fiance this morning, and she was like, oh my God, I'm almost crying at her dad filming the trucks. And I was like, that's such a woman thing, because I didn't even notice that. Like I thought the video was amazing. Like that's why I started following you, and began looking at your work, your other videos and everything you had done, and eventually invited you to be on the pod. But tell me about that. I think that's so cool. Your grandparents are buried where they're right next to the road where the trucks go by every year with the fruit. That's so awesome.
Yes. Well, it's amazing. So how quickly it goes back, because my grandfather, I never got to meet him. He passed away before I was born, but he's a World War II veteran, and just his grandfather, so my grandfather's grandfather was a Civil War veteran.
Wow.
Yeah. And eventually moved out west and comes from like a long line of farmers. And my grandpa was one of 7 kids growing up on the apple farm. Actually had about 100 head of cattle too back then. And he, in the 30s, was a truck driver. And he started out with like an old Dodge and drove truck until he went in, he was drafted into the military. Did 3 years heavy combat from North Africa all the way through Germany. And then went on to become a medical doctor.
Oh,
And because his younger brother had passed away when he was 4 years old from tuberculosis. And I actually I bought last summer the original homestead that my great grandparents built. And we're,
wow. That's
yeah,
awesome. What
yeah.
year did they build that? Do you know?
It was 1937.
Cool.
Wow.
Yeah. And because the first one had burned down. But my grandpa had been around all that hard stuff and going through the Great Depression. He was like, when he was 12 years old, he's like, God, after his brother had died, he's like, God, please make me a doctor. Like, I just want to help people. And he went on through the GI Bill, became a doctor, and instilled that same type of mentality. Now, he still had ties to the farm and would still go back down to Tenasket and work on the farm and stuff when he could. That's why I say I'm still like fourth generation, because it's still in your blood, right?
Oh yeah.
But it was just he had that mentality of like, it doesn't matter where you come from. It's like you can achieve anything you want to. And he loved trucks, and he loved being around, like, even though he was a brilliant doctor, he loved going in like the mechanic shop and talking shop with all the fellas. And it's kind of cute that like he and my grandma she homesteaded in Alberta. Like she would run around barefoot most of the summer. She had like scars on her face from being bucked off a horse into barbed wire fence. And
Oh.
yeah, she is the real cowboy of the family. Yeah.
Grandma.
I love her.
Yeah, Lila, bless her heart. So
Lila,
Lila
that's
and Dell
awesome.
are buried in Tenasket, and their graves are right outside by the road and on a perfect grade. So you hear those trucks going up, and then on the way down you got Jake's going, and it's pretty cool.
Just watching over the rigs and everybody, making sure it goes smooth. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
very
so
nice.
beautiful. Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, man. And that video, like, I don't know, more than a million view. A lot of your videos have.
Yeah, and that was my second time posting it. The first time I posted, I think it got like 7 million views or something,
Wow.
and this time it was like 2 million views or whatever. Yeah.
Do you ever, because I feel like you're a farmer first, you're doing your marketing first, and then you're a social media star. What do we call, I don't know, a cowboy Cole? What is the word?
Yeah.
Influencer, I guess.
Internet star. Like, do you ever go into like the anxiety of like, do you look at your views? Do you look at your follow count? Do you look at your unfollow count? Be truthful. Don't lie to me now.
Oh yeah, I look at it all the time for sure.
And how do you
like,
deal with that? Does that give you anxiety?
I guess it doesn't really give me anxiety since I've been doing it for a while now. I'm kind of just like I understand it's a numbers game and I am always interested in like the analytics and stuff. But yeah, sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm not doing so hot, or like seeing that like amount how many people unfollow and stuff can be discouraging, but also I'm like, well, I'm glad that the right people are sticking around. Um, but I try not to, like, the easiest thing would to be, do you know how hard it is to get 180,000 followers on Instagram as a like female without showing any skin? I
I
don't
can't
even
even
have any,
imagine.
Yeah, for real.
I
Hey.
don't even have any bikini pictures posted of myself. And I'm like, I'm really focused on trying to
That's
be
a lie. If you go on right now, all her photos are bikini photos picking fruit. Can you imagine?
get
Yeah,
them
you
to
want
go
a milli
check out my
followers?
profile.
So,
Yeah.
okay, my next question is about your OnlyFans.
Oh, stop.
It's crazy though. You're right though, 100% right. Like it's so hard. I can't even imagine how hard it is for you. That's why I said at the beginning, like you didn't wake up one day and said, I'm gonna start a social media account talking about apples and pears. Like that's the hardest thing you can do to gain followers, right? Like it'd be so much easier for you to be doing a million other things out there.
Oh man, and like I've thought about the OnlyFans thing. Like if I could do some like tasteful like teases of pictures, and it would be so
That's
easy. And
Man,
It'd
there-
be money in the bank.
money in the bank.
I could save the farm.
Yeah, I'd be like, Dad, we don't need to grow apples no more.
Episode 6
We're done.
of Yellowstone, the Apple edition. Kate goes on OnlyFans to save the farm.
But what I do love about this, and I'm honestly glad you brought it up because it is so refreshing to see somebody like yourself
Yeah.
building a community like this, behind something that's real life and actually has some value behind it, a true story, real people. Like you're building something real, not just what you want people to think it is. You're bringing them all along on a real life journey.
Oh, thank you. That's what I want. Like that's the goal. And like one of my constant prayers, I'm always like, God, if it's not the right thing, just close the door and I will move on and find something else to do with my
Mhm.
life. But the doors keep
Amen.
opening and I know it's just like the platform I built is an absolute blessing from the Lord. And I've got to be mindful with that. Like, even how I respond to like hate comments and comments and stuff, because my human nature is like, oh, I want to be like snarky right back at him because I can
Mhm.
be sassy as heck. But I'm like, okay, it doesn't make sense to fight fire with fire. And it's an opportunity to like show people, like, lead by example, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
That's
it
so
is-
important.
It's so hard to read those comments and be like, I'm gonna get this mother trucker. But deep down, you're just like, I need to be the bigger person. Other people
Yeah.
see this. Other people look at what I'm saying, how I reply. Like that's the
Yeah.
other thing too, is like you're opening big doors for yourself. And sometimes those big doors are opening and they do have those people scrolling through stuff and just seeing how you interact with people in your community.
It is. It's pretty humbling to like I'll meet people in person and they're like, "Oh, I love how you handle like comments that you get and stuff." And I'm like, "Wow, I like these are people that I'm meeting that never comment themselves, but they're watching how I respond to other people."
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
so true and so important. Okay, Kate, thank you so much first of all for, making the time to talk to us. We're winding down here. I know you're a busy girl even though you're in the off season. You got crates to carry. We got 2 more questions. I'm going to ask the second last question and Cole will take the last one that we always ask our guests. This is just I've always wondered this. How long does it take for a apple tree to start producing the fruit? Once you've planted it, and how many years does it last? Can it last forever if it's well taken care of, or do you have to kind of replant it after 30, 40 years?
Yeah, with the dwarfing rootstocks, it takes about 5 years to get into production if you're planting a tree, and then like 7 years to get full production. And then if you graft a tree, cut down it to a stump, and then
Yeah.
graft it over, it'll take like 3 years to get production.
And how long will those trees produce for?
30 years, 40 years, 50 years, but we're usually
Wow.
turning over at like 15 years.
Wow.
Mm.
Wow. A lot of investment, folks. That's crazy.
Yeah, no
Okay.
doubt.
Thank you
And
so much.
patience.
Yeah. Yeah.
Talk about growing money trees, hey? Plant the seeds, hang out, wait, water.
Yeah,
Takes a lot of patience.
Almost have a heart attack due to the stress, but
Yeah,
eventually
literally,
it
right?
works out.
Fight the banker off. Yeah. All
you know
right.
it.
So, yeah, this has been a great podcast. So, one thing we like to ask all of our guests at the end is we're called Should Have Been a Cowboy. And since, you are in the agricultural business and whatnot, so we're going to ask you, if you were a cowboy, what kind of cowboy would Apple Girl Kate be?
Oh, like what kind? What do you mean?
Well, you could be like a long rider like Felipe. You could be a team
Oh,
roper, rodeo,
mm,
just a straight
mm.
A
rancher,
rancher.
like a
If
colt
I had
starter.
if I had the skill set of cowboys, I would be a tie down roper for sure.
Hey, there you
Yeah.
go.
Let's
Yeah. I've always
go.
wanted to learn how to rope. If there's any cowboys that want to teach me how to rope, my DMs are open.
Damn. All right. We're going
DMs
to have
are
to set
open
this
for
up.
ropers.
We're going to have to set this up. Cowboy Cole, do you think we can teach her?
I think we could probably show you how to get it on a set of bones for show.
That would be cool.
Let's
Wrangle some
go.
apples.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, let's go.
Awesome.
And hey, open invite. If you want to come to the Calgary Stampede this year, let us know. Best rodeo in the world.
Yeah,
I've always wanted to. That would be
absolutely.
It seems like you have to because you live so close to us. So let us
Yes.
know. We'd love to host you down here. It's a great rodeo.
Oh, thank you. I'll have to take you up on that.
Well, you have to bring a bushel of apples for us.
I will. I'll get through customs. I'll sneak them
Thank-
through customs.
That sounds
All right.
great.
Thank you so much, Kate. It was a pleasure meeting you, and keep on the good work. You're doing an amazing job out there.
Oh, thank you guys. This was so fun.
Heck yeah. Chat later.
Bye.
Apple Girl Kate, 4th generation farming apples, man. What a story.
What a story, man. Love chatting with her. Just so much passion. You could just see it in her eyes and her smile. Just eager to go. Like you can't teach that to someone. You can't instill it in them. They're either born with it or not. You know what I'm talking about? Like this, like, let's
Yeah.
go. Like it's raining. Let's put on jackets on and get the job done. Like,
Yeah, absolutely,
know?
man. And like, yeah, you can't pay somebody enough money to act like that. You're right. It comes
No.
from deep down. So
it's in your soul. It's in your soul. You either have it or you don't. And I love meeting people like that. Just like turn any negative into a positive. Let's make it happen. Just a powerhouse. And yeah, a real life lesson from such a young person, 22 years old, and look at everything she's accomplished, everything she's putting together, and an important voice for ag.
big time. Very, very wise for a young Apple cowgirl. And it is nice to see a girl doing really well with their content without having to show cleavage and shaking ass in front, dude. Because my content is getting buried by those bitches all the time, dude, and it's so frustrating because it's just like, man, my stuff has some weight to it. You know what I mean? You're just freaking shaking your ass.
Yeah, it's tough, man. It seems like social media it pushes stuff that has no content and it buries the stuff that actually has some kind of good message behind it. But it is what it is. Her doing what she's doing. I feel like we're in the same boat. We're trying to put content out there that has a little more to it than just tits and ass. And I think the more we do it, the more we're gonna get out there and spread it. So it is what it is. But Cowboy Cole, tonight we're recording again. Are you ready to go?
We are. Yeah, dude. We got 2 back-to-back guests today, 2 beauties. So we're excited to announce who that is in this next episode. Should we keep it a secret or should we let them in on it real quick?
What do you think? I don't know. It's up to you.
I think we should keep it a secret. You hoser's got to go to the next one, all right?
Yeah, let's go. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for following us. Make sure you check us out on Instagram, on YouTube. We're all over the place. It's popping, and we can't wait to see you next time.